I stood with Chloe Vance on the hospital rooftop, her white coat billowing in the wind like a victory flag. "Ethan, you can finally get some rest," she said softly, handing me a cup of coffee. I took it, letting the bone-deep exhaustion wash over me. Last night's emergency surgery had been an 8-hour marathon, but we'd pulled through. It was a success. This was the third year I'd known Chloe, the second we'd been together. She was the daughter of Director Vance. I was just a resident who'd clawed his way through med school on scholarships. "Your review is tomorrow. Are you ready?" she asked. I nodded. "Yeah, I'm ready. If this goes well, I'll finally make the attending physician program." This promotion was everything to me. As an orphan who grew up in the foster system, I'd fought for every single thing I had. Making the attending program meant I could finally plant my feet firmly in this city. Chloe smiled. "You're gonna nail it. I believe in you." Just then, her phone buzzed. "It's Alex." She glanced at the screen, a flicker of something uncomfortable in her eyes. Alex Reed, Chloe's childhood friend, son of a prominent Boston medical family, and now a surgeon in our hospital's cardiothoracic department. Everyone in the hospital could see he was still trying to win her over. "Answer it," I said, my voice even. She hesitated for a second before picking up. What are you talking about?" "Okay, I'm on my way." Her face suddenly went pale. Hanging up, she turned to me, her words rushed. "Something's wrong with Alex's patient. He discovered a rare cardiac anomaly during surgery. The situation is critical, and he needs me to assist." As an anesthesiologist, Chloe's skills were second to none at Boston General. "Go," I said. "The patient comes first." She gave me a quick, frantic kiss and bolted for the stairwell. I watched her disappear, a knot of unease tightening in my stomach. The next day, right before my review, I tried calling Chloe again. No answer. I walked into the conference room and saw the empty chair at the head of the table. Director Vance, the chairman of the review board, was absent. His absence made the entire process an uphill battle. In the end, my application was rejected by a razor-thin margin. Walking out of the room, I saw Chloe rushing toward me, her face a mask of apology. "I'm so sorry, Ethan. The surgery last night. It was so complicated. We've been at it this whole time." "Your father was there, too?" I asked. She nodded. "Alex ran into a serious complication. Dad had to step in and take over." A bitter laugh escaped my lips. "So, you all just forgot about my review today." "Ethan, I am so sorry, but it was a life-or-death situation." "I know." I cut her off. "Patient first. I get it." But a cold question echoed in my mind. If it had been any other doctor in trouble, would she have pulled an all-nighter for them? Or was this reserved for Alex? That evening at the annual hospital gala, Alex Reed was hailed as a hero. The surgery was spun as a miraculous rescue, and he stood on stage, beaming. I stood in a corner, nursing a drink, feeling like a complete outsider. "Dr. Hayes, a nurse whispered to me, leaning in, "That surgery last night? It wasn't as complex as they're making it out to be. Dr. Reed could have handled it himself." "What do you mean?" I asked, frowning. "He intentionally made a straightforward procedure look like a 5-alarm fire just to get Dr. Vance over there. Everyone could see it. He just wanted to show off for her father." My hand tightened around the glass, the plastic creaking under the pressure. Across the room, Chloe was laughing with Alex, surrounded by a crowd of admirers. Alex's hand rested casually on her shoulder, a gesture that staked his claim. As if feeling my stare, Chloe's head turned. Her eyes met mine, and I saw a flash of guilt, but she didn't move toward me. She just gave a slight shake of her head, a silent plea for me not to make a scene. In that moment, everything became crystal clear. "Ethan, I swear it wasn't intentional," Chloe said, catching up to me in the hospital's parking garage and grabbing my wrist. I didn't pull away. I just stood there, watching the distant city lights flicker in the night. "Alex is just a friend, you know that. We grew up together." "A friend?" I shot back with a cold laugh. "Does a friend intentionally manufacture a crisis on the most important day of your boyfriend's career just to sabotage him?" "It wasn't like that," she insisted. "The surgery really was critical." "Chloe," I interrupted her, my voice quiet but sharp. "You knew exactly how important that review was to me. It was an opportunity I'd spent 3 years grinding for." She looked down. I know, and I'm so sorry. If it had been me in there and over my head, would Alex have lifted a finger to help me? She was silent. Or is it that, in your eyes, I'll never measure up to your childhood friend? The wind whipped a strand of hair across her face. In the dim glow of the overhead lights, I saw tears glistening in her eyes. Ethan, don't be like that. I'm just an orphan, Chloe. I don't have the background, the connections. I know I'm not in your league. I took a deep breath, but I thought, at least in your heart, that I mattered. She grabbed my hand, her grip desperate. Of course you matter. You're everything to me. Everything enough to sacrifice my future for Alex. Her hand trembled. That's not fair, Ethan. It was a person's life. Just stop, I said, gently pulling my hand away. Let's both just cool off. On the walk back to the resident dorms, memories flooded my mind. Chloe, giving me hope when I was at my lowest. Chloe, holding my hand through the toughest times. I once thought she was my salvation. Now, I wasn't so sure. The next morning, Director Vance called me into his office. Ethan, about yesterday's review. He paused. The board has decided to grant you an appeal. I looked up at him. What? Your skills are undeniable. Yesterday's circumstances were unusual. Was it because of Chloe? I asked directly. A flicker of discomfort crossed his face. She did bring it to my attention, but this was a collective decision by the board. I was silent for a moment, then slowly shook my head. Thank you, Director Vance, but I don't need special treatment. This isn't special treatment, Ethan. You're more than qualified. It's just that yesterday. Yesterday, I failed. A fail is a fail, I said calmly. If I only pass because you pulled strings for me as Chloe's boyfriend, what's the point? Director Vance studied me for a long moment. You're a proud young man, Ethan, but sometimes a little compromise isn't a bad thing. I'm sorry, sir. I think I need some time to reconsider my career path. As I left his office, I ran into Alex. He looked radiant, clearly still riding the high from the previous night's accolades. Dr. Hayes, he said with a smile, his tone dripping with superiority. Last night's surgery was a massive success. Couldn't have done it without Chloe's help. I just looked at him, saying nothing. He seemed to grow uncomfortable under my silence, and added, Heard your review didn't go so well. What a shame. There wasn't an ounce of sincerity in his voice, only a poorly concealed glee. Alex, I finally said, you did it on purpose, didn't you? His smile froze. What are you talking about? Last night's surgery. It was never that complicated, was it? You just wanted to make sure Chloe missed my review. Panic flashed in his eyes before being replaced by a mask of composure. Ethan, you're being paranoid. It was a high-stakes procedure. I just did what any doctor would do. Really? I let out a cold laugh. Then why are the nurses all saying it was a routine case? His face changed. You're listening to gossip from a bunch of junior nurses? It doesn't matter, I said evenly. I just wanted to let you know you won. Chloe shows you. I'm the outsider. He suddenly broke into a chilling smile. Ethan, you were always the outsider. Chloe and I are from the same world. Don't you get it? I didn't say another word. I just turned and walked away. His words were like a knife to the chest, but he wasn't wrong. In a world defined by family names and connections, I really was an outsider. I submitted my letter of resignation. When Chloe found out, she burst into my dorm room. Are you crazy? Quitting over one failed review. I kept packing my duffel bag, not looking at her. It's not about the review. Then what is it about me? Her voice cracked. I stopped what I was doing and faced her. Chloe, we're not right for each other. Why are you suddenly saying this? She couldn't believe what she was hearing. Because of his surgery? It was an emergency, Ethan. I didn't mean for it to happen. It wasn't an emergency. I cut her off. Alex did on purpose. He admitted it. She froze. What? He deliberately made a simple procedure look complicated so you'd have to assist him, so you'd miss my review. That's impossible, she said, shaking her head. Go ask the nurses. Ask the other doctors who were there. They all know, I said with a bitter smile. But you'd rather believe him, rather than question your childhood friend. Chloe's face went white. I'll go ask him. Don't bother. I went back to packing. This all just proves one thing. In your heart, he will always be more important than me. That's not true, she cried, grabbing my hand. Ethan, I love you. I looked into her eyes. Then why is it that every time he calls, you drop everything to help him? Why do you believe every word he says, but you have to go verify what I tell you? She fell silent, tears streaming down her face. I get it, I said softly. You might love me, but you care about him more. Ethan, I'm leaving, starting over. I zipped the last bag closed. I hope you and Alex will be very happy together. She blocked the doorway. Where are you going? To open my own clinic. By yourself? She asked, incredulous. Without the hospital's equipment and resources, how are you going to perform surgeries? I'm not going to. At least, not for a while. I'm going to start from the ground up, treating everyday people for everyday problems. Her eyes filled with incomprehension. You're throwing away years of hard work to open some little clinic. To me, nothing is more important than my freedom, I said, picking up my bag. Move, Chloe. No, she stood her ground. Ethan, I won't let you leave like this. We can talk about this. I can keep my distance from Alex. It's too late, I said calmly. The moment you chose him over me, it was already over. I walked around her and out of the room. She was calling my name behind me, but I didn't look back. Walking down the hospital corridor, I passed a few colleagues I knew. They all gave me strange looks and whispered amongst themselves. I knew what they were saying. They thought I was leaving because I was jealous of Alex's success, that I was a sore loser. Before leaving the hospital for good, I went to see one last patient, a 10-year-old girl named Lily, who had been admitted 3 months ago for a congenital heart defect. Dr. Hayes, are you really leaving? The little girl asked, her eyes full of sadness when she heard the news. I nodded. Yes, Lily. I'm going somewhere else. But who's going to read stories to me? She asked, her lip trembling. I managed to smile. A new doctor will take care of you. Dr. Reed is very skilled. I'm sure he can fix your heart. Lily shook her head. I don't like Dr. Reed. He never smiles. A warmth spread through my chest. I gently patted her head. Promise me you'll cooperate with your treatment, okay? Will you come back and visit me, Dr. Hayes? I will. When you're all better, I'll definitely come see you. Leaving the room, I ran into Alex. He was discussing a case with a few interns. Seeing me, a smug smile crossed his face. Dr. Hayes, leaving us so soon. Such a shame, he said, feigning regret. Hope you have better luck wherever you're going. I looked at him, and to his surprise, I smiled. You know, Alex, you may have won this round, but the game is just getting started. His smile froze on his face. What's that supposed to mean? Someday, I'm going to make you understand what it really means to be a doctor. Without another word, I turned and walked out the main doors of the hospital. The Boston sun was bright, almost blinding, but it felt warm on my skin. I knew this was a new beginning. I rented a small storefront in a town on the outskirts of Boston and opened my clinic. At first, there were almost no patients. Who would trust an unknown clinic run by a doctor who looked so young? The first month, I saw maybe a dozen people, mostly for common colds and minor injuries. The income was barely enough to cover rent, but I didn't care. I poured all my energy into studying, reading the latest medical journals every day, and researching diagnostic methods for rare and difficult cases. In the second month, an old man changed everything. He was a retired professor who came in for a persistent headache. The local urgent care couldn't figure it out, and the wait to see a specialist at a major hospital was months long. He came to my clinic as a last resort. I carefully listened to his symptoms, ran a detailed exam, and suspected it was trigeminal neuralgia. I prescribed a course of medication and told him that if he didn't see improvement within a week, he needed to go to a hospital for further imaging. 3 days later, the professor returned with his entire family, his face beaming. He grabbed my hand. Dr. Hayes, you're a miracle worker. My headache is so much better. It turned out he'd been to several major hospitals without a correct diagnosis, trying different ineffective medications for over a month. The prescription I gave him started working in just 3 days. The professor was a well-known figure in the community, and his story spread like wildfire. More and more patients started showing up at my door. 6 months later, my clinic had earned a solid reputation. The waiting room was full every day. One afternoon, a young woman in simple clothes walked in. She introduced herself as a nurse named Sarah Jenkins. Dr. Hayes, I've heard about you, she said, her eyes shining with admiration. You cured Professor Miller's headaches and diagnosed Mr. Davison's rare condition. I smiled. Just got lucky. Are you here for checkup? She shook her head. I'm here to apply for a job. I heard you needed a nurse. I didn't need help. The clinic was getting too busy for one person to handle. But I hesitated. The conditions here are pretty basic, and the pay isn't great. I don't care about that, she said firmly. I want to learn from you. In the hospital, we just follow protocol. We rarely get a chance to really understand patients and learn diagnostics. Her earnestness reminded me of myself when I was just starting out, that pure, unadulterated passion for medicine. All right, I nodded. You can start a trial period tomorrow. Sarah quickly proved her worth. She was not only a hard worker, but also had an incredible eye for detail and a hunger to learn. Within a few months, she could handle many common cases on her own. The clinic continued to grow. I brought in some new equipment and began to handle more complex cases. Our reputation spread, and people even started driving out from the city to see me. A year later, Sarah ran into my office, waving a newspaper. Dr. Hayes, have you seen the news? She handed it to me. The headline was about a medical malpractice incident at a prominent Boston hospital. A cardiothoracic surgeon had made a critical error during a procedure, resulting in the death of a patient. Isn't this? My voice wavered. The patient mentioned in the article was the little girl, Lily, and the surgeon was Alex Reed. You know them? Sarah asked, sensing my distress. I nodded and gave her the short version of my history at that hospital. So, that Alex guy was your rival? She asked, her eyes wide. I gave a grim smile. You could say that, but it's all in the past. Don't you want to go back and see what happened? I hesitated. A part of me needed to know about Lily, and even about Chloe, but I was afraid of dredging up all those painful memories. Finally, Sarah's words pushed me over the edge. As a doctor, don't you want to know the truth? The next day, I closed the clinic and drove back to the city with Sarah. Stepping back into the hospital felt surreal, like visiting a past life. A year had passed, but nothing much had changed. The hallways were still bustling, the faces of patients and families still etched with a mixture of anxiety and hope. But I had changed. I wasn't the same Ethan Hayes who had walked out of these doors. I went straight to Lily's old pediatric wing. A weary, middle-aged woman stood outside her room. I recognized her as Lily's mother. Hello, I said softly. I'm Ethan Hayes. I was Lily's doctor before. The woman looked up, and a flicker of recognition, then relief, lit up her eyes. Dr. Hayes, you finally came. She grabbed my hand, her grip desperate. Lily kept talking about you, saying you promised you'd come back to visit. Her voice broke, and tears streamed down her face. Lily, she's... My heart sank. She's still in the ICU, the woman sobbed. The doctors, they said she might not. I took a deep breath. Can I see her? Using some old connections, Sarah and I gained access to the ICU. Lily was lying in the bed, pale and still, hooked up to a web of monitors and tubes. The surgical incision on her chest was still healing. I reviewed the data on the monitors and her chart, my expression growing darker by the second. How is she? Sarah whispered. It's bad, I said in a low voice. Her heart valve was damaged during the surgery. She's in severe heart failure. Sarah looked shocked. How could Alex make a mistake like that? I don't know. I shook my head. But this is not a normal surgical complication. Just then, the door to the room opened. A familiar figure stood in the doorway. Chloe. She looked exhausted, with dark circles under her eyes. When she saw me, she froze, as if she were seeing a ghost. Ethan. Her voice was barely a whisper. I nodded. Long time no see. Tears welled in her eyes, but she quickly blinked them away. When did you get back? Just now. I heard about Lily. I gestured toward the bed. How did this happen? A complex expression crossed Chloe's face. There was an accident during the surgery. What kind of accident causes an experienced cardiothoracic surgeon to make such a basic, catastrophic error? My voice rose, sharper than I intended. She bit her lip and didn't answer. Sarah gently touched my arm, a silent reminder of where we were. I took a breath, composing myself. Can I see her complete medical file? I asked. Chloe hesitated, then nodded. I'll go get it. After she left, Sarah asked, So that's her? Your ex-girlfriend? I just grunted in response. She seems different, does she? I stared at the empty doorway, a tangle of old feelings stirring inside me. Chloe returned quickly with a thick file. I flipped through the pages, my frown deepening with every chart I read. This makes no sense, I said, pointing to a page. The pre-op workup clearly shows that Lily's heart structure had almost completely normalized. Why would he perform such a high-risk, invasive surgery? Chloe avoided my gaze. It was Alex's decision. Why would he take such a huge risk? He said it would be a permanent solution to prevent any future relapse. I let out a cold, sharp laugh, and instead, he pushed a child who was on the road to recovery to the brink of death. Chloe's tears finally fell. Ethan, it's not what you think. Then what is it? I pressed. Alex was chasing a high-profile success to pad his stats, wasn't he? Her silence was all the confirmation I needed. At that moment, the ICU door opened again. Alex Reed walked in. When he saw me, his face hardened instantly. Ethan, what are you doing here? I met his gaze directly. I came to see your handiwork. A flicker of panic crossed his face before he masked it with arrogance. This is a matter for the hospital's review board. It has nothing to do with you. Nothing to do with me. I pointed at Lily. That child was my patient. I promised her I'd come see her. You're no longer a physician at this hospital. You don't have clearance to be in the ICU. He turned to Chloe. Why did you let him in? Chloe looked down, silent. I took a step forward. Alex, why did you operate on Lily? That was a medical decision, and you're in no position to question it, he snapped, his anger showing. Am I? Then let me ask you, did you follow standard procedure? Why was her valve damaged? His face turned a dark shade of red. You. Before the argument could escalate, the door opened a third time. Director Vance walked in. Seeing the scene, he frowned. What's going on here? Director Vance's arrival diffused some of the tension. He saw me and raised his eyebrows in surprise. Ethan, you're back. I nodded. Director Vance. His gaze darted between me, Alex, and Chloe, and he seemed to grasp the situation instantly. This is an ICU. We will have quiet. If there's something to discuss, we'll do it outside. We followed him to a nearby conference room. Alex's jaw was clenched the entire way, while Chloe kept her head down, refusing to look at anyone. Ethan, Director Vance began after we sat down. I heard you open a clinic in the suburbs. I nodded. That's right. How's business? It's going well. He smiled faintly. Good to hear. What brings you back so suddenly? I heard what happened to Lily. I came to check on her. The director's expression turned serious. It is an unfortunate incident. The investigation is ongoing. It wasn't an incident. Alex cut in, his voice defensive. It was a surgical complication. These things can happen in complex cardiac procedures. I scoffed. Really? Then why did every other pre-op evaluation recommend against such a major surgery? Alex's head snapped toward me. How do you know that? I read her chart, I said, looking him dead in the eye. Lily's cardiac function had recovered remarkably well. All she needed was monitoring and medication. You were the only one who insisted on this high-risk operation. Director Vance frowned. Alex, is this true? Alex stammered. I was considering the long-term prognosis. Or were you considering your career stats? I interrupted. Maybe another chance to play the hero for Director Vance. Ethan, Chloe finally spoke up. You can't just accuse Alex like that. I turned to her, a cold disappointment washing over me. So you're still taking his side? Even after he put a child's life at risk? She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Director Vance gave me a long, hard look. Ethan, I understand your concern for Lily, but the investigation isn't complete. We can't jump to conclusions. That's right. The investigation isn't over, Alex said, breathing a sigh of relief. He shot me a triumphant look. You should stop spreading rumors, Ethan. I was about to retort when Sarah, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. Director Vance, we were just looking at Lily's vitals. Her condition is deteriorating rapidly. If something isn't done soon. The director's face paled. What? She needs immediate surgery to repair the valve? I had jumped in. Otherwise, she might not make it through the night. That's impossible. Alex shot to his feet. Her condition is stable. Stable? I fired back. Her heart rate is dropping, and her O2 saturation is all over the place. You call that stable? Director Vance was already on his feet. I'm going to see for myself. After he left, the room fell into a heavy silence. Sarah sat beside me. watching Alex warily. After a moment, Alex spoke, his voice low and menacing. Ethan, you better be careful what you're doing. If you try to ruin my reputation. Your reputation? I said with a cold laugh. What reputation is left to ruin? You. He shot up and strode toward me. Chloe quickly got between us. Alex, calm down. He shoved her aside. Stay out of this. Chloe stumbled back, a look of pure shock on her face. I stood up, moving in front of Sarah. Alex, first, do no harm. You've already betrayed your oath as a doctor. Are you going to resort to assault now, too? His fist was raised, but after a tense moment, he lowered it. He sneered. Who do you think you are? Some small-town clinic doctor, trying to challenge me. Director Vance won't listen to you. No one in this hospital will. The door swung open. Director Vance stood there, his face grim. Alex, Lily's condition is critical. She needs surgery. Now. Alex's face went white. I'll get prepped. No. Director Vance cut him off. You will not be performing this surgery. Alex looked as if he'd been struck. What? I've already contacted Dr. Stevens, the chief of cardiothoracic. He will be leading the procedure. The director's tone left no room for argument. Alex's face was ashen. Director, you don't trust me. Director Vance didn't answer him directly. Instead, he turned to me. Ethan, would you be willing to assist in the operating room? I was stunned. Me? Yes. You're the most familiar with Lily's history, and... He paused. I trust your professional judgment. Alex's eyes widened in disbelief. Director, he's been out of the hospital for over a year. He has no standing to... Enough. Director Vance's voice was like a whip crack. The only thing that matters right now is saving that little girl's life. I took a deep breath. I'll assist, but I need all of her imaging and the full records from the first surgery. Director Vance nodded. Chloe will get you everything you need. Chloe looked at me and gave a silent, solemn nod. Rage and defeat warred on Alex's face, but he was powerless against the director's authority. He shot me a look of pure hatred before turning on his heel and storming out. The conference room was quiet again, with just the four of us left. Director Vance let out a long sigh. Ethan, you've changed a lot in the last year. I gave a humorless smile. Yes, I'm no longer the guy who lets people walk all over him. He gave me a meaningful look. Surgery is in 2 hours. Be ready. With that, he also left. Chloe remained standing there, looking like she wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. Is there something you want to say? I asked. She bit her lip. Ethan, I'm sorry. Don't be. I cut her off. Saving Lily is all that matters right now. She nodded, tears in her eyes. I'll go get the files. After she was gone, Sarah asked softly, Are you sure about this? You haven't been in over a year. I looked out the window at the city skyline. For Lily, I have to be. Do you remember your promise? She asked suddenly. I looked at her, confused. You said that someday you would make Alex Reed understand what it really means to be a doctor, she said with a small smile. Looks like that day has finally come. Outside the operating room, Lily's parents paced anxiously. When they learned I would be part of the surgical team, a glimmer of hope returned to their eyes. Dr. Hayes, please, save our daughter. Lily's mother pleaded, her voice thick with tears. I took her hand. I will do everything I can. In the pre-op briefing, Dr. Stevens, the chief of cardiothoracic surgery, laid out the surgical plan. He was one of the top cardiac surgeons in the country, renowned for his skill and experience. Dr. Hayes, Dr. Stevens said, looking at me. I've heard good things about your diagnostic acumen. During the procedure, I want you to keep a close eye on Lily's vitals and provide input as needed. I nodded seriously. I will. Chloe, as the anesthesiologist, was also part of the team. After the meeting, she stopped me in the hall. Ethan, she began, her voice trembling slightly. Do you really think Alex did it on purpose? I stopped. What do you mean? I mean, do you think he knowingly performed an unnecessary surgery that put Lily in this position? I looked her straight in the eye. What do you think? She looked down. I don't know. I just can't believe he would do something like that. Chloe, I said calmly, you still trust him more than you trust the facts. No, that's not it, she said, flustered. Enough. I cut her off. Right now, saving Lily is all that matters. We can talk about everything else after the surgery. She bit her lip and nodded. Before the surgery, I changed into my scrubs, trying to mentally prepare myself. Sarah was there, helping me adjust my cap, her face etched with worry. Are you sure you're ready for this? I took a deep breath. I have to be. Just then, Alex appeared in the doorway of the locker room, his expression dark and menacing. Ethan, he said, approaching me, his voice a low growl. You think you've won? I ignored his provocation. This isn't a competition, Alex. The goal is to save lives, not to score points. Cut the crap, he sneered. You're just trying to show off for Director Vance, so you can get your old job back. You're wrong, I said, meeting his gaze. I never wanted to come back. I just couldn't stand by and watch a child die because of your ego. My ego, he shot back. What gives you the right to say that? The facts do, I replied evenly. You risked a child's life to further your own career. If that isn't egotistical, I don't know what is. His face flushed with anger. He looked like he was about to say something else, but all that came out was a bitter, you just wait. This isn't over. He spun around and left. Sarah looked at me with concern. You don't think he'd do something crazy, do you? I shook my head. No, he's selfish, but he's not a monster. The surgery began on time. Lily was wheeled into the OR, her small body looking fragile on the operating table. Dr. Stevens took the lead, with me and 2 other surgeons assisting. Chloe was at the head of the table, managing the anesthesia, her focus absolute. The procedure went smoothly. Dr. Stevens was a master at work, carefully repairing the damaged heart valve with precise, economical movements. Dr. Hayes, he asked at a critical juncture, what's your assessment of this repair? I leaned in to observe closely. The valve damage is more extensive than we thought. I'd recommend reinforcing it with a Gore-Tex suture. Dr. Stevens nodded. My thoughts exactly. Halfway through the procedure, something went wrong. Lily's blood pressure began to drop, and her heart rate became erratic. What's happening? Dr. Stevens asked. Chloe, her voice tight with tension, checked her monitors. I don't know. The anesthetic levels are stable. I glanced at the monitor. There's a bleed on the posterior wall of the heart. Dr. Stevens quickly adjusted the retractors. There is a bleed, but it's not from our work. This is a complication from the previous surgery. A chill went down my spine. Alex's surgery had left a ticking time bomb, and he hadn't noted it in the surgical report. We need to address it now, I said, or it could lead to catastrophic failure. Dr. Stevens nodded. Dr. Hayes, you handle bleed. I'll continue with the valve repair. I took a deep breath and accepted the instruments. It was my first time performing such a delicate task in over a year, but years of training took over. My hands were rock steady. A few minutes later, the bleeding was under control. Lily's vitals began to stabilize. Good work, Dr. Stevens said with an approving nod. Quick thinking and a very clean repair. From behind her screen, Chloe gave me a look of profound respect. The surgery lasted 4 long hours, but was ultimately a success. Dr. Stevens did a final check of his work before declaring the procedure complete. We owe a lot to Dr. Hayes today, he said sincerely, pulling down his surgical mask. If you hadn't caught that hidden bleed, the outcome could have been very different. I shook my head. It was a team effort. Leaving the OR, I was hit by a wave of exhaustion. I stood at the scrub sink, taking a long, deep breath and looking at my reflection in the mirror. Eyes bloodshot, face etched with fatigue, but also with a long-forgotten sense of accomplishment. Chloe came up beside me. Ethan, thank you. I glanced at her. Don't thank me. I was just doing my job. No, she said, shaking her head, her eyes wet with tears. It's not just for Lily. It's for what happened a year ago. I owe you an apology. I was quiet for a moment. What's past is past, Chloe. We're on different paths now. Ethan, her voice broke. Just then, Sarah came running up to us, out of breath. Ethan, something's happened. I tensed up immediately. Is it Lily? No, not Lily, she panted. It's Alex. He's trying to alter the surgical records. What? Chloe and I exclaimed in unison. Sarah explained. I just went to the records room to get a copy of Lily's chart, and I saw Alex at a computer. I think he was changing the notes from his surgery and her pre-op evaluation. Chloe shook her head in disbelief. That's impossible. I saw him with my own eyes, Sarah insisted. He was changing the pre-op results to make her condition seem more severe, probably to justify why he performed such a major surgery in the first place. My stomach dropped. If he does that, the bleed we found today will be covered up. It will look like a known complication of a necessary surgery, not malpractice. Chloe's face went white. That's a crime. We have to stop him, I said decisively. Sarah, go find Director Vance. Tell him what's happening. I'm going to the records room. Sarah nodded and took off running. Chloe hesitated for a second, then said, I'm coming with you. I glanced at her, but didn't object. We hurried toward the records room. Chloe was silent the entire way, but I could feel the conflict raging inside her. Still want to make excuses for him. I couldn't help but ask. She stopped dead in her tracks. No, it's just, I can't believe he would do something like this. People will do anything when their career and reputation are on the line, I said flatly. I've learned that the hard way. A pained expression crossed her face. Ethan, I am so sorry. Now is not the time for apologies. I cut her off. We have to stop Alex first. When we reached the records room, Alex was hunched over a computer, typing furiously. He jumped when he saw us, a panicked look on his face. What are you two doing here? Stopping you from committing a felony, I said coldly. Falsifying medical records is illegal, Alex. He tried to regain his composure. I don't know what you're talking about. Stop pretending. Chloe stepped forward. Sarah already saw you changing the records. Alex's face hardened. That little nurse, what does she know? She knows enough, I said. Enough to ruin your career. Fear flashed in his eyes, quickly replaced by rage. This is all your fault. If you hadn't come back and stuck your nose where it doesn't belong, none of this would have happened. None of this. I shot back. You mean an innocent child wouldn't be fighting for her life because of your ego? I didn't, he yelled. I was trying to give her a permanent solution. Really? I walked over to the computer and glanced at the screen. Then why are you changing the records? If you had the patient's best interests at heart, why cover up the truth? He was silent, his face a mask of desperation. Chloe approached him, her voice trembling. Alex, tell me the truth. Did you do this on purpose? Chloe, his tone suddenly became pleading. Don't you understand? Everything I did for us. What are you talking about? She asked, confused. I have to be the best in my field for your father to finally approve of me. I have to keep racking up high-profile successes to prove my worth, he said, his voice rising. And Ethan came back to destroy all of it. I laughed coldly. So you admit it. You put your career ahead of a patient's safety. Alex glared at me. So what if I did? In this hospital, in this field, who doesn't? Everyone is fighting for their future. Chloe looked at him in horror. Alex, how can you say that? As doctors, the patient's life is supposed to come first. Oh, spare me, Chloe, he sneered. You didn't go into medicine to satisfy your family's expectations. Your father isn't constantly worried about the hospital's reputation. That's enough. Chloe's voice was sharp. Whatever our reasons, we don't gamble with people's lives. Just then, the door to the records room flew open. Director Vance entered, flanked by Sarah and 2 security guards. What is going on in here? He demanded. Seeing the director, Alex's face drained of all color. Director Vance? I stepped forward. Alex was attempting to alter Lily's medical records to cover up his malpractice. The director's expression turned to stone. Is this true, Alex? Alex opened his mouth, but no sound came out. His silence was his confession. Security. Director Vance ordered, his voice ice cold. Secure this workstation. No one touches it. The guards moved in, blocking Alex from the computer. The director then turned to me and Chloe. I'm going to need your statements. I nodded. Of course. As the guards led Alex away, he looked back at me, his eyes burning with hatred. This isn't over, Ethan. I met his gaze calmly. First, do no harm, Alex. I hope you remember that someday. After the room had cleared out, Director Vance let out a long sigh. Ethan, if you hadn't come back, this might have been swept under the rug. I shook my head. I just did what had to be done. He gave me a long, thoughtful look. Are you really happier in that clinic of yours? I smiled. It may not be better, but it's more honest. Chloe had been silent through all of this, a storm of emotions on her face. Director Vance nodded. I understand, but if you ever change your mind, the doors to this hospital will always be open for you. Thank you, Director, I said sincerely, but I think I found my path. Leaving the records room, Sarah was beaming. You did it, Ethan. You proved he was wrong. I managed a small smile. This wasn't about winning. It was about getting to the truth. Chloe followed a few steps behind us, hesitating. I stopped and turned to face her. Is there something else you want to say? She bit her lip. Ethan, I was wrong. I looked into her eyes, the same eyes that once made my heart race, and now felt nothing but a calm quiet. Chloe, what's past is past. I hope you find what you're looking for. With that, I turned and walked away, and this time I didn't look back. A week later, Lily was discharged from the hospital. Her parents came to my clinic with a large bouquet of flowers, their eyes filled with grateful tears. Dr. Hayes, if it weren't for you, our daughter might have. Lily's father choked up, unable to finish his sentence. I shook my head with a smile. Dr. Stevens was the real hero of that surgery. I just played a small part. Lily's mother squeezed my hand. No, Dr. Hayes, you were the one who found the hidden bleed. Dr. Stevens told us himself that if it weren't for you, the outcome would have been tragic. Lily stood beside her parents, looking at me shyly. Dr. Hayes, thank you for saving me. I knelt to her level. How are you feeling, Lily? So much better, she said brightly. I can run now, without getting tired. I gently patted her head. That's great to hear. Just remember to come in for your regular checkups, okay? She nodded seriously. I will. After Lily's family left, Sarah brought me a cup of hot tea. You look happy, Ethan. I took the cup and smiled. Seeing a patient recover, that's the greatest satisfaction a doctor can have. By the way, she said, remembering something, I heard Alex Reed was fired from the hospital. The medical board revoked his license, too. I nodded. I expected as much. Don't you feel vindicated? She asked curiously. I shook my head. No, I just feel like justice was served. There's no room for ego or lies in our profession. Sarah looked thoughtful. How has Chloe been? I don't know. I shrugged. We haven't spoken since that day. She hesitated for a moment. Actually, she came by the clinic. I looked at her in surprise. When? The day before yesterday, when you were out looking at new diagnostic equipment. She stood outside for a long time, but never came in. I was silent for a moment, then said, the past is the past. We're both on our own paths now. Sarah nodded and let the subject drop. Business at the clinic boomed. The waiting room was full every day. I invested in more equipment and expanded our services. About a month later, Director Vance made a surprise visit to the clinic. Ethan, he said, looking around the upgraded space with an approving nod. You've done well for yourself. I motioned for him to sit. Director Vance, what brings you out here? He chuckled. Can an old friend stop by to say hello? I poured him a cup of tea. Of course. He looked around again. I hear your clinic is making quite a name for itself. I gave a modest smile. The local community seems to appreciate our work. No, he shook his head. It's more than that. I've heard people are driving out from the city just to see you. I was genuinely surprised. I hadn't heard that. Director Vance smiled. Young man, your talent shouldn't be hidden away out here. I knew where this was going. Director, if you're here to ask me to come back to the hospital. No, he cut me off. I'm not here to ask you to come back. I'm here to ask you to partner with us. Partner? Yes, he nodded. The hospital is planning to open a satellite branch in the suburbs, focusing on primary care and early diagnosis of complex cases. I want you to be the director of this new branch. I was stunned. Why me? Because you have a unique perspective and an uncanny diagnostic ability, he said sincerely. But more importantly, because you have the true heart of a doctor. I thought for a moment. It's a very generous offer, but I'll need time to think about it. Of course, he said, getting up to leave. But there's someone else who might influence your decision. I looked at him, confused. My daughter, he sighed. She's changed a lot since. All of that. She's not the same confident, proud Chloe she used to be. I remained silent. She transferred to the pediatric department. She spends time with kids like Lily every day, Director Vance continued. She says it's her way of atoning. A complicated emotion stirred in me. She has nothing to atone for. It wasn't her fault. She believes it was, he said, shaking his head. She thinks if she had been stronger, if she hadn't been so quick to defend Alex, Lily wouldn't have suffered. After a moment, I said, please tell her the past is the past. She needs to look forward. Director Vance gave me a long, meaningful look. I'll tell her. As for the partnership, Take your time. After he left, I stood at the clinic door, looking out at the distant city skyline, lost in thought. Sarah came to stand beside me. What did Director Vance want? I told her about the offer. That's a fantastic opportunity, she said, her eyes lighting up. You could have so many more resources, help so many more people. I nodded. Yes, but it also means giving up some of my freedom. Ethan, she said, looking at me earnestly, whatever you decide, I'll support you. I smiled gratefully. Thank you. Just then, a taxi pulled up to the clinic. Chloe got out, holding a manila envelope. She froze when she saw me, then seemed to gather her courage and walk toward us. Ethan, there's something I need to talk to you about. Looking at Chloe, I felt a complex mix of emotions. She was thinner than the last time I'd seen her, with faint dark circles under her eyes, but her gaze was steadier, more resolute than before. Sarah, ever perceptive, said, I'm going to go organize some patient files. She disappeared back inside, leaving Chloe and me alone at the entrance. Let's talk in here, I said, gesturing to the small garden area next to the clinic. It's quieter. She nodded and followed me to a bench. My father came to see you, she asked, getting straight to the point. I nodded. He did. He proposed a partnership. Did you accept? I'm still thinking about it, I said, my eyes on the horizon. It's a big decision. She let out a soft sigh, then pulled a thick document from the envelope. This is what I wanted to show you. I took it and saw it was a formal investigation report. As I read through it, my eyes widened. This is... Yes, she confirmed. It's the full report on Alex. It's not just about Lily's case. It includes several others. The report detailed how, over the past 2 years, Alex had repeatedly performed unnecessarily invasive surgeries to boost his success stats and reputation. Some of these procedures had caused patients needless pain, and in a few cases, permanent damage. Why are you showing me this? I asked, closing the file. Because I wanted you to know the whole truth, she said, her voice wavering. And because I needed to apologize. I remained silent. Ethan, she took a deep breath. I was wrong. I kept telling myself Alex was innocent, that he was just misunderstood. I truly believed he cared more about his patients than anyone. But the facts prove how wrong I was. I asked quietly, so what have you learned? I've learned that the true heart of a doctor isn't in flashy speeches or technical skill. It's in the respect you show for life and the genuine care you have for your patients. She looked me straight in the eye. The way you've always been. I didn't speak, just let her continue. And I finally understand why you were so angry that day. Why you had to leave, she said, her voice choked with emotion. I betrayed your love and your trust. Chloe, I finally said, the past is over. We're on different paths now. I know, she said, wiping a tear from her eye. I'm not here asking for forgiveness. I'm just here to tell you that I see my mistakes, and I'm trying to be better. I nodded. I heard you transferred to pediatrics. A small smile touched her lips. Yes, being with the kids every day, watching them get better and go home. It's a kind of happiness I can't describe. That's good, I said, and I meant it. You found your purpose. She hesitated, then added, Ethan, about my father's offer. I hope you'll consider accepting it. I was a little surprised. Why? Because you have the ability to help so many more people, she said earnestly. And the hospital? It needs doctors like you, who actually live by their oath. I smiled faintly. Your father said something similar. He's right, she nodded. Since the Alex incident, the hospital has been going through a lot of reforms, but it needs people like you to lead it in the right direction. I thought for a moment. I need to talk it over with Sarah. She's my partner here. I can't make a decision like this alone. Chloe glanced toward the clinic. Is she important to you? I wasn't sure how to answer that. Sarah had been my rock during the most difficult time of my life, but whether our relationship was purely professional or something more, I hadn't figured out myself. She's a good person, I finally said, and an excellent nurse. Chloe seemed to understand. She nodded slowly. I see. Well, whatever you decide, Ethan, I hope you'll be happy. She stood to leave, but then turned back as if struck by a final thought. If I hadn't chosen to help Alex that night, if I'd stood by you instead, what do you think we would be like now? I looked into her eyes, the same eyes that once captivated me, and answered softly, who knows? Maybe we'd still be working together at the hospital. Maybe we'd be married with kids. But that's all just a maybe. Tears welled in her eyes again. Ethan, I am so sorry. You don't need to be, I said calmly. Everyone makes their own choices, and everyone has to live with them. She nodded, then turned and walked away. I watched her go, feeling no resentment, no lingering affection, only a quiet sense of peace. Sarah came out of the clinic and stood beside me. She's gone. I nodded. Yeah, she's gone. How did it go? She asked carefully. I smiled. It went well. I think we both got the closure we needed, and the director's offer. I want to accept it, I said, looking directly at her. But only if you'll come with me. She stared at me for a second, then a brilliant smile broke across her face. Of course, I will. We're the best partners, aren't we? Yes. I nodded, a warmth spreading through my chest. We are. The next day, I officially accepted Director Vance's offer. The hospital's new community branch was scheduled to open in 3 months. I would be its director, and Sarah was appointed as the head of nursing. On opening day, many people came to celebrate. Lily and her family, old patients from the clinic, colleague from the hospital, and even a few local reporters. Director Vance stood at the entrance, his face beaming with pride as he announced, "Today, our new community branch officially opens. This isn't just the birth of a new facility. It's the continuation of a philosophy, to practice medicine with a true heart." In the crowd, I saw Chloe. She was in her white coat, standing with a group of other pediatricians. She caught my eye and gave me a small, genuine smile. I nodded back at her, a sense of profound peace settling over me. After the ribbon-cutting ceremony, Sarah came to my side. "You look happy, Ethan." I looked around at the brand-new facility, at the patients and colleagues who had placed their trust in me, and nodded. "I am, because I've finally found my way." She smiled. "Yes, I think we both have."